Hi, I'm Sam Valenti, and I'm joined by a true legend in Swedish music, Lena Andersson. Lena, this is an incredible honor to be speaking with you.
Thank you, Sam. I didn't expect that to happen in Phoenix.
I know, right? Yeah. It's pretty amazing how a legend like yourself ends up right here in the valley.
I guess I tried to get away,
Yes, it's pretty amazing. So I actually want to start off talking about the Christmas songs that they came out with in December.
Sure.
Just amazing stuff. In particular, I loved the new version you guys, the little twist you put on "We Three Kings."
Oh yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
How did that particular song come about?
So did you know it beforehand? The song?
Yes, yeah.
I think my husband can better explain it, but I think we made the chorus a little different than the original. But we borrowed the words, and I think the verses are pretty much the same as the original, but we redid the chorus a little bit.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I thought it was amazing that
Cool.
you guys, that you guys did it in your own style. Kind of American folk style.
Yeah, that's what we've
well.
done. Even the last album was a little Americana. So we've done that now for a while, and
Yes,
try to stay true to that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's amazing because you actually grew up a fan of American folk music.
Yep.
Pete Seeger,
yes.
Joan Baez.
Yes.
So how did that interest start for you?
Well, I think, of course, I got a guitar when I was 12, which was 1966 or 67 actually. I was 12. So that kind of music was very popular back then. You had the pop scene and then you had the folk scene. I mean, they were almost at the same level, and so especially in Sweden we listened a lot to that kind of music, and I had a guitar, so of course I wanted to sing songs that suited my voice and I could play. So a lot of it I found songs in books. Like I did record my goodness, now I can't remember the title. One of the songs I recorded on my first album, Paul Simon and Simon Garfunkel did it too. I'll come up with the title soon. And I did my own version because I found it in a book. I didn't know what they had done, so I just played it my way, and that I had that kind of a singing voice, especially back then. I sang like those folk singers,
Yeah, yes, definitely. And then how is how is that interest? How has it influenced like the music that you've made throughout your career and even today?
I think my first album was, they took the songs that I was playing at home, and so half the first album is English, half is Swedish. So it was actually, I didn't know any Swedish songs. Very odd.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And it was also called protest songs back then. So it was a little political too, the whole era was a lot of, protests, demonstrations, those kind of things. So it was not just folk, it was also protest in a way, that's what people did. So my first album, they had to find me Swedish songs. First, I had to sing one song in Swedish so that my manager, that later became ABBA's manager, he wanted to know if I could sing in Swedish. Because he said, everybody can sound good in English, but can you sound good in Swedish? So I had to kind of prove that to him. So, and then they found me songs, because I didn't really know any, but so that's how that came about. So half Swedish, and also the hit song, which became number one with a bullet, from nowhere up to number one, and it was on there almost a year, I think, on the Swedish chart. So that was a song from Buffy St. Marie. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a native Indian singer, also in that whole genre back then. She was very popular then. So her song was called "I'm Gonna Be a Country Girl Again," and Stig Andersson wrote the Swedish lyric, which says, is it so strange that you want to kind of get away sometimes or long for to go somewhere else? And that really is something the Swedes, they always want to go somewhere else. So that they love that song, they always want to go, can we go to Spain, wherever they want to travel. probably the Viking blood. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and that song has endured throughout the years.
Oh yeah, it's still got over 2 million listeners since 2005 on Spotify.
Wow.
Mhm. So that's still number one that people want to hear. Yep.
Yeah, it was a massive hit, and definitely
was.
it's definitely on my rotation.
Oh yeah, I still do it when I go to Sweden. If I perform, I have to do it. You know, I mix up the old and the new, and that's one of the songs. I just have to sing it. You know.
Yes, absolutely. But it's it's a pretty amazing story that you broke through at age 15. That's pretty.
Yes.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's overnight for sure. I sent the tape to the Swedish broadcasting radio company. It's a governmental radio kind of a thing, you know. They had a program where you could send in a tape of anything. It didn't have to be serious or nothing. It could be anything. But I sent in 7 songs where I was singing with my guitar. And this was December 1970, and they called us, me and my mom and dad, and said, "Can we send some of this on the radio?" And we were just like, "Wow, yes." So they did send it, and then when they broadcasted those songs, I think they played 2 songs at that time. Everybody started calling us, like producers from different record companies. It was just amazing. So, and the one that was most persistent that I keep telling about was Lena Andersson. He had Polar Music. He had Björn and Benny was 2 of his producers, and they also did their own records, just Björn and Benny, without the girls to begin with. And so he was very persistent. So we decided to go with him. I mean, we hadn't planned any of this. I was so young, and we had no experience of the business, music, nothing. You know, we lived out in a small town. So in February, we decided to record the album. So we recorded the whole album pretty much in 1 week, and everything was recorded live with the musicians in the studio.
Wow.
So they played, I sang, and that's where that hit was part of that album. And you know, yep, that's how it started.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite a story. It's really overnight. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, and back then we only had 2 TV channels, Channel 1 and Channel 2, and so everybody was watching. And I was on this popular show. My TV debut was with it was called Highlands Corner, kind of like Ed Sullivan show. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
So I mean, everybody was watching, and then I was on the front pages of the evening papers next day. I was on the the posters outside the stores. I was everywhere. Just boom. I mean, crazy. And then I actually turned 16 in April, but the album came out, I think, in March or something like that. Yep.
Yeah, and that's an amazing album, by the way. Just so many amazing songs. The song that I always love from that is your version of What Did You Learn in School Today?
Yeah.
That because that was a song made famous by Pete Seeger, and your version, when I first heard it, it blew me away.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I love those kind of songs, you know. So I guess I was a little political. I don't know. I mean, that was the era, you know. Every area has their own thing going, you know.
Yes, absolutely. And then it's it's crazy because you are pretty much a household name in Sweden at this point. You know, I imagine that had to have been overwhelming for you.
It was overwhelming
at the time.
The hit, the number 1 was in April 71. In June, I went on my first tour, 79 gigs that first summer, and I had hardly ever been on a stage. So everything was new. I didn't have any education. I didn't have any background. All I did was sitting in my room playing. And so, I mean, nowadays, a lot of artists, they have some kind of music education. They go to schools, music school, they learn everything about the business, the music, everything. I knew nothing. So, I mean, it was overwhelming for sure. And then after that tour, I came back to my hometown, and then I was going to start my first year of high school.
Wow.
And it was a huge school where, you know, the teachers had those bicycles because it was so big. And I didn't know anybody in my class, which was really weird because from 9 up to 9th grade, I knew everybody. We had followed each other all the way up there. And now I was in a class with, I didn't know anybody, and I was super famous all of a sudden. It wasn't easy that first year. So it was because of that I moved to Stockholm the next year. So I finished high school in Stockholm, and I just couldn't take it. It was too hard.
Yeah.
In a small town, you know, and you have good stuff and bad stuff. You have, some people are jealous. Some people, they don't like that you have success. I mean, you have both, you know. You have people that love you. Some people hate you. I mean, you experience both, you know, when you get famous like that, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, of course, you know, we got to talk about your time with ABBA. You know, I know as many people know, you were a backup singer for ABBA, you know, which was, you know, huge. Obviously, I think, you know, ABBA's, you know, a lot of people call them the 70s Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
So
they would like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that you would, I believe you had worked previously, even before you had toured with them, like, like all four members. Would you mind talking a bit about that?
The reason it came about was that I was at the same company. So they were my producers before they formed ABBA. So it was just a few years, you know, because they had their first big hit, 74. So that was just like 3 years. It seems longer now when you think about it. But so they had written some songs for me. They wrote one song for the Eurovision Song Contest. I wasn't elected to go on the international, but I was on the Swedish one. And I was a favorite, but I didn't win. So, but they wrote that song. So, and I went to Japan with that. If you read my story, I went to Tokyo. The song won there. So, but so I had that background with them, and even ABBA themselves sang backing vocals on some of my recordings. So I think that's something the big fans pick up on when it comes to me, that I had ABBA as backing vocal on I think that was the second album I made, and that was made the same year, 71. So I came up with 2 albums on the first year, and I think that one in particular, they're singing, you know, Agneta and Frida, not the guys, I don't think, but they produced it, you know. So that was my background with them. So Benny kind of asked me when they were going to go on tour, he kind of asked, you know, do you want to go with us? And I'm like, oh yeah, what do you want me to be? Play before you? What do you want? But then he said, no, we want you to sing backing vocals. I'm like, okay, let me think about it. So, but it felt exciting, you know, to tour and go to Australia, of course.
Oh,
I mean, that's not a common place to go. So, yeah, I said yes. And then the other 2, they were also solo singers. They had their own careers. Lena Maria and Maritza, both were recording artists. So it wasn't just me doing it, you know, with them. So, yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was different. You know, it was, I've never been on a big tour like that.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, yeah. And, you know, the reason I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it was also because it took a while before they were totally recognized in Sweden. Because again, you have the jealousy, they were too commercial. Because Sweden was very, especially in the 70s, progressive. Everything had to be political, leftist music. So they were too commercial. So they had a lot of, you know, criticism for that, but they didn't care. You know, they knew what they wanted to do. So now I think people are very proud of them. But back then, it took a while. They were more popular in Australia than in Sweden, for sure, at that time.
Wow.
You know, it took a while, yeah. So, but now they're fully recognized, and they've done musicals and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, they sure have. And of course, you were on that tour, in Australia, and it's ABBA mania there.
Absolutely.
I mean, of course,
Crazy.
In ABBA the movie, it's crazy. Just the fans are all going nuts. I mean, what was it like being in the middle of all that?
Well, we saw it all. We were kind of looking at it, and people were. They were camping outside the different arenas to get a good spot. I mean, especially in Sydney, it was raining all night and people were still there. And even at the show, it was raining. So people were actually standing there with umbrellas. I think you can see that on the movie. And Frida fell on the stage.
Yep.
She slipped, and Stig Andersson ran in with a towel. So I remember he had a white suit, and he was there on his knees, kind of in the middle of the show. Who's that guy? So that was kind of fun, and we were standing back there just watching what's going on here. So I mean, they were super popular. That's for sure. I mean, like Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
And that's the first country they really broke through. Australia. So I don't know why. Just they loved them there.
Yeah, and of course something that is seen in ABBA the movie, and of course a great performance that you and the other backup singers got to do was Get on the Carousel as part of the mini musical, which I always love because that's when you really got to shine in the show.
To be heard a little more. That's true. Yep.
Yeah, and I always love watching that scene in the movie because you have so much energy in it. It's awesome.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's true.
It's just very, very memorable. Very memorable. Yeah. Absolutely. And another thing you did was you recorded I believe some German covers of some ABBA songs like SOS, Fernando, just to name a few.
Yeah.
And I love. Yes.
And that's very much because they became big so quick. I think in the very beginning, and you may know more than I do, they did some recordings in Spanish for South America, and before they had this huge breakthrough because they wanted to reach out. But then when they kind of felt like we're really making it here, so they didn't want to sing in any other language than English. So that's why Germans, I guess they wanted German versions. So that's why I got to do it, because they didn't want to do that anymore. They just wanted to stick with English, and so that's how that came about.
Yes, and I think you really did a great job of making those versions your own.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Really, those are
even in German.
Yes.
Which I don't speak. I mean, I've studied German for about 7 years. I don't really speak it because I've never lived there. You know what I mean?
And that's another thing is that you're able to sing so well in various languages, because I think you even did something like Japanese,
yes,
I believe.
Yep. So we released an album in Japan where 2 of the songs were in Japanese, and then at that time at least they said the Japanese they just love everything foreign. So they don't care what language. So I think even we had Swedish on that album. We picked songs from what I had done before, but we did 2 songs in Japanese. And the thing is, when they write it phonetically, it's very easy for a Swede to pronounce, because you pronounce it just like it's written. I think it would be harder for you.
Yeah.
So one song is called Kawaii Sonako. Aru no aruhi tasmete nitara komarani komodachi inakute iporitochi nako. That's the only thing I remember. Kawaii sona. I don't remember anymore. But and I didn't really know what I was singing. I knew it was a very sad story, a lot of crying. Some unhappy love or something, a lot of tears.
But that's I just think that's so amazing is that you can sing so well in just these various languages.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Is there a language that you would that you haven't sung in but that you would like to?
Well, I got saved when I was 30, and so after that, I sang a lot in church. I did a lot of missionary trips and stuff. So 97, 98, I was 6 months in Greece, in Athens. So I actually sang worship songs in Greek. And I knew what I was singing because they were translated from Swedish songs. So I knew the meaning, but I could never learn to speak Greek. I couldn't even remember how to say hello. So that was a very hidden language for me. I just couldn't learn it. I don't know why. But I could pronounce it. But no, that was hard. And English, it's a special language if you're a Swede, I think, because we never dub anything. So all the movies, TV series, whatever, is always in the original language, except for Walt Disney for kids. They do a special voiceover in Swedish, but all the grown-up stuff is always the original actors. You know what I mean? So we get to hear English all the time. So I think that's why I felt like I could speak English even before I could speak it. I would mimic worldly rails, when I was little. I thought I could speak it. And then when I started to learn when I was 10, it was just so easy for me, you know. And I think that's because you've heard it so much, you know. German, not so good. But if I would live there, I would probably learn that too. And I think it has to do with the musical ear. You know, you pick up accents and even in Sweden, I moved 3 times within the country. So I grew up with one dialect, and then we moved down south to the west coast, completely different. And then I moved to Stockholm, and all those 3 I learned as when I was young. So I had to learn to speak different, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
It's kind of like the southern Sweden is like Texan kind of a thing, you know, very broad, kind of a dialect. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny point you bring up because I'm from Texas.
Oh yeah.
So
it's different. Huh?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So we lived the first 10 years in California, and I felt like they didn't have any accent there. I don't know about here. I don't hear any different way of talking. You do?
Yeah, I don't.
No?
I don't
No?
either. So.
No, I mean Midwest. That's really different.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know because I have family up in the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
And you hear actors speak like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. How did you end up here?
Ask him. Ask my husband.
Yeah.
Well, my husband grew up in Flagstaff, and then he moved to California, 80s, late 80s, and so when we met, he had been up there since. I mean, we met 2000 on the internet. That's where we met, and then we got married 2001. And so he had already been out there for about 20 years. And Toby, he was a children's pastor for the first 12 years when we were married. And that's why we moved around a little bit. We were in 3 different churches. So the first one I would say was Oceanside, Carlsbad, that area, Southern California. And then we moved to Central Valley because he got a job there in Turlock. So we were there for 4 years, and then when that job ended, and there was a lot of reasons, there were recession and all kinds of stuff, but we kind of said, where do we go? Let's go home, to where he comes from. And I think we had thought about that, like when we get older, let's move to Arizona, So I think that's one of the reasons. And then there was also a pastor here in town that kind of was nudging us to come here, come home, So Toby got a job at a church here. So, and he helped us with housing and everything the first year we were here. So that's how I think we moved here. And Toby still has his parents still alive and 2 sisters and their families here. So it was not so strange that we came here, It was kind of natural in a way.
What are your favorite things about living here in the valley?
Oh boy. I mean, I can't say I love the heat. Who does? So that it's hard every summer. And you know, over the last years, I've been going to Sweden a lot in the summer. So I kind of escape a little bit for a couple of months. But I do like the weather. Like now, spring is beautiful, and I also like everything southern, I think. So I know before I met Toby, the year before, I prayed to God because I was in Spain. There's an island called Majorca, and that's where I got saved also, by the way. But this was long after I got saved. And I prayed to God, let me live in a place with palm trees. so I don't know, that was my prayer. I was just like, I can't live up north somewhere. I mean, I like to ski, but I don't want to live in a climate like that. It's just too hard. So I like that southern feel, that it's kind of warm and blue skies. I mean, who doesn't love blue skies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I miss the ocean a little though. I miss water a little bit. We go camping at some of the lakes here sometimes. It's not quite the same, but so I do miss water. But I've always lived by water. I lived 21 years in Stockholm. I lived 10 years on the west coast by the ocean. So I'm kind of used to having water around. You know what I mean? But it's good. It's cheaper. At least it used to be cheaper here than California. We don't know. Now it seems to be the same, but you know, it's we don't know if we're staying here forever. Maybe we move somewhere else. We'll see.
And when you go back to Sweden, you know, from your vantage point, how much has it changed from when you were living there?
Well, there are some things that have changed a lot, unfortunately, and that is, and now we're getting into politics here, but 2015, Sweden let in 250,000 so-called refugees. And I'm sure some were. I don't think they all were refugees. Some were just wanted to get in, and they kind of opened the border. And by that time, maybe we were 8-9 million. And you let in 250,000 people from a completely different culture. It was, it has taken its toll on Sweden, and a lot of violence. I mean, there's shootings now. I mean, every day somewhere, and people are getting killed. I mean,
jeez.
Yes. So there's a lot of and areas where Swedes can't go because the immigrants have taken over. This is ours. And not even the police can go in there. I mean, those kind of things are happening to Sweden that used to be very peaceful, very, non-violent. And now it's like, that's, I don't know if they can ever repair that.
Wow, that's...
So that's the big problem right now. And that's one of the reasons Social Democrats have been in power for the most part since early 1900s, and now this last election they lost, and because they are to blame. They did this, to the country because they're naive, I would say. They think, oh no, everybody is good, and no, not everybody's good, and they've let in some bad people that don't know how to become Swedes, and they may not even want to. So it's a problem. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I actually didn't know about that. Yeah. Wow.
It's a big.
I
it's
did
a
not
big
know.
Deal, and they see it mostly in the big cities, of course, and the suburbs of Stockholm. Like I said, there's some you can't even go. They're gonna beat you up if you go there if you're a Swede. I mean,
wow, that's
they're
crazy.
Taking over.
Wow. Wow, that is, I'll be honest, I really didn't know about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's very bad.
On a much lighter note, I think on one of your last visits, I think you visited a Tylösand, I think.
What?
I believe on one of your more recent visits, I'm not sure how recent, but I think you visited a Tylösand, I think.
Oh, Tylösand.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah, that's outside of Halmstad. That's
Yes.
the most famous beach.
Yep.
It's a beach
Yeah,
hotel.
it sure is.
Do you know Roxette?
Yes, yeah, I do know Roxette. Yeah, yep, yes.
So
Mr.
that's his
Per
hotel.
Gessler.
Yeah, it's
yes.
his hotel. He owns it. He's from my hometown.
Well, it's have you ever gotten to meet him before?
Yes, I have.
Really?
Yeah,
No
I
way.
have, yeah. I mean, I'm probably at least 10 years older. So, but I met him a couple of times. One time he invited me to sing at the square in my hometown because he wanted to gather all artists from that city. So I think that was the last time I met him. But he's a very nice guy. Very, very nice guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what's her name? Marie.
Yeah.
She was there too. She died, but she was from a little south of Halmstad, a little further south, I think. Yep. So that whole band is kind of in town, because he had another band too, and he's still touring with them.
Yes.
A boy band, sort of. Yeah. Yep. That's my hometown.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, that's so cool. I did not know that you and Marie and Parrot interacted. Because all of you are legends, so that's amazing. I didn't know about that. That's so awesome.
They're a little more famous, let's say that.
So now I want to talk about your most recent album.
Oh,
It
yeah.
came out last year, Winding Roads. Such
Yes,
a
yes.
wonderful album.
Oh, cool.
So many
Thank
great
you.
songs,
Yeah,
just
thanks.
well made, great lyrics.
Yeah, thank you.
So how did that album kind of come about?
Well, my husband Toby, he is the producer and songwriter together with me. So on this album, I did all the lyrics, but mostly the first album came 2015 that we did together. Then we were more cooperating on the lyrics. This time, I don't know why, but it just turned out this way. So Toby does a lot of the music. I mean, recording. He has ideas, what kind of instruments. And since we wanted to make it Americana, we had mandolins, fiddle. What?
Players from all over the world.
Yeah, we had players from England, Sweden, Denmark, Germany. Yeah, one old friend of mine in Germany. He's French, but he lives in Germany. Yeah, we have a guy in Austin, Texas that did all the backing vocals. Super nice guy. Yeah. So through air gigs, we find musicians. So that's how you do it nowadays. So we send the music to them, they record, and then they go back and forth till Toby's happy with it, as the producer. And so that's how it goes.
Oh, wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Because it's really amazing that you were able to get so many contributions from other people. That's so cool.
So they're out there, air gigs. So in the very beginning, we tried to get musicians here, but it turned out that they never showed up on time, so we just gave up, So we're like, okay, we're gonna find our own people, and so we have. And sometimes the same people again that we used before, and sometimes we find new ones, So I think that's cool.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and it's just a great album. Just
Yeah.
I love
I'm
all
glad
the songs.
to hear that, because sometimes I feel like I haven't gotten as much feedback as I would like, because it's a lot of work. I mean, especially for Toby. I mean, we work for, I don't know, 1,000 hours. I don't know how much, just to make it the way we want it. And sometimes it just goes by. I've got some good words from people in the very beginning, but then it's kind of silent, you know what I mean? So I'm going to promote a little again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I don't have time so much because I work full time, and I have to do that for a while. So, but you have to be out there, and promote and remind people, because there's so much out there, there's music everywhere. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I really love a Dream by Dream and a Wayfaring Stranger. Those are my
cool.
favorites.
Yeah. We have more music that are kind of in the making, so we'll see. And I do want to do a little more Swedish, maybe, if I can. How do you like the Swedish song?
No, yes, of course.
It's a very good lyric. You need to learn Swedish.
Yes, I do. I wish I wish ASU offered Swedish as a language.
Go.
I would take that, but it's not an option. It's just like, oh.
Oh, they have to hire me.
Yes.
So, have you seen the video for the Swedish song?
Yeah.
It kind of tells you a little what it's about, and that all those scenes in there with burning cars, and that's Sweden today. That's why I did that, because it's gone that far. A lot of violence, a lot of destruction going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a protest song.
Yeah.
So I'm
right.
saying, because the Bible says to choose the good way. If you come to the crossing, choose the good way. And that's what I mean. People have left their faith in God, as a whole, as a nation. There are lots of strong Christians in Sweden, but the country is secular. You're not allowed to talk about God almost anywhere, It's just, they just silence that.
Right.
And if you are a Christian in Sweden, it's like you never hear anything. Nobody says God bless you on TV, or it's non-existent. You know what I mean? So that's what that song is about. Turn back to God, because I think also all the violence we see in Sweden, it's also partly because they left the blessing. We were blessed because we had a revival in Sweden in the beginning of the 1900s. We had the Pentecostal movement came to Sweden, didn't come to Denmark, didn't come to Finland, came to Norway and Sweden, didn't come to Germany. So, certain countries were touched, you know what I mean? And blessing came. People stopped drinking, they started to clean up their act, a lot of things turned for the better. So that's kind of what that song is about.
Yeah, it's a crazy world we're living in now.
Oh yeah, very
there's
crazy.
So much
Anything
stuff's
goes.
going on. I know.
Yeah, there's no truth. Oh yeah, so that's your truth. This is my truth. No, there is the truth. We need to focus on that,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, people are confused. It must be hard to be young today. I'm thinking I have another background. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and even if I didn't grow up in a Christian family, I grew up with those values, you know what I mean? And in school, and it was still, people were still respecting God, and now anything goes. It's like, there's no rules, there's no standard, I would say, to live up to. And it must be confusing if you're young and you don't have anything to base your life on, you know what I mean?
Yes. And another interesting thing that I saw actually on your website, you're very interested in artwork, which I think is wonderful. Because I was checking some of your pieces out.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. It's just really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
How did you get interested in art?
I don't know. Well, I have a heritage. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, she was painting. And she was kind of different. I don't remember so much from her because I was 4 when she died in cancer. So I don't remember her as a person very much, but I've seen her paintings, and I know it was very unusual for a woman in working class to do art, you know what I mean? So she did that, and then my dad was good at, he never developed it. He became a dad when he was 21. They got me, right? So he never developed it, but he was very good at sketching, and he liked to draw, and so he had a talent for that. So when I was little, I liked it when I was a kid, and then I took classes in my teenage years. I did oil painting, I did watercolor. I took classes in Stockholm. I've always done something, you know what I mean? And then I found this mixed media art. I found it online, I think, and I started to look at it, how people did it, and it was fascinating to me. It felt like there's no rules here. I can do whatever is creative. I don't have to be super good at everything, because, there's so much, if you're gonna really paint, you have to be so super skilled. It feels like, I will never get to that point. So this, I feel like, is very free, color, form, if you have a sense of that. And I do know how to draw some. I'm not so bad, but I'm not super, you know what I mean? Some are just amazing. But So especially during 2020, I didn't work that whole year, when COVID started. So I just, and I was on a class with an old friend of mine from Sweden. She's an art teacher, and she had a class online with everybody else was living in Sweden, but we met on Zoom every week, and then she had her classes online. So you went in there and looked at the lesson for the week, and so I just got going. I mean, I started maybe February, and I had done some mixed media the year before, but I think I did over 100 pictures that first spring. It was just like explosion. So, and I keep doing it. It's just very fun. I mean, I feel like it's a very free art form, Not to say I'm against rules, but when it comes to art, it's a good thing.
Right. Yes.
It shouldn't be restricted. You should be able to do whatever, So, it's very fun, and Toby is encouraging me. He says, go for it. And he wants me to do really bigger stuff. So sometimes I do, and sometimes when I haven't done it for a while, I start with a little thing because it's easier.
Yes.
But it's fun. I really enjoy it. Yeah. I feel like with music, I'm always depending on other people. But with the art, I can do it all myself.
Right, yeah.
So I'm a little introvert in that sense, that I don't need anybody's help on this. I can do it. You know what I mean? And I would have loved to, when I was younger, to do everything in music myself. But I can't. I can't play that well, So I always had to use other people, which is good too. You get to work with other people. But it's a certain satisfaction when you can do it all. You know what I mean? From beginning to end.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, and like just the artwork you made it's really beautiful. Like it's really well made. I love all like the desert inspired
cool
stuff.
Arizona.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I'm not going to post any of my artwork online because.
Oh, do you have some?
Well, like just stick figures. So that's the best I can. The best I can do is stick figures.
Okay,
so it's not that great.
It has its place.
Maybe there's someone out there that would really like that.
Yeah. The best stick figure I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But Lena, you've had truly a remarkable career in music. You've done so much in your career. Is there anything you would change about your career, or do you just like it the way it has gone?
I think, it was kind of interrupted in a way. I got saved. That was the best thing that's ever happened to me. But even before that, it was kind of, I was on a down slope, I felt like it was over, nobody was interested. I had a hard time with my record company, and that's been hurtful. It still affects me a little bit that I had a hard time with my manager. We didn't go very well together, unfortunately. So because of that, I could have had a bigger career, you know what I mean? But it didn't happen because I felt rejected. I felt nobody believed in me anymore, and so I kind of left. I kind of backed out, and I never stopped with music because I kept doing music, but not in the big format, So that can be a sad thing to think about sometimes. But then again, what's more important is it? I've always felt like living my life is more important than my career. So, be happy with the little things, find harmony, and with my Christian life, that's what I found. I found life, I found peace, joy. A lot of people had no idea where I went. Where is she, But I knew where I was. And, I was singing a lot. I was in one church in Sweden. They had huge conferences with thousands of people. They were broadcasting. I was singing solos in those settings. And, I was satisfied with that. But the world around, they didn't really know about it, For them, I was gone. But I knew I wasn't gone. I was found. I had been found. So you make choices in life, and you have to. The Bible says regret is for fools. There's no use having regrets. You just move forward. You can't change the past. You can just move forward. So I think that's kind of what we're doing now. Some people ask me, I did a radio interview in Sweden. He said, so what is it that keeps you going? He said, like, I should retire or something. And you don't retire from things that you love to do. You just keep doing it. But things change with age. But, as long as you can do it, why not? What else are you going to do?
Yep.
So I think it's fun. Right now, we're also working on some old songs that I had on cassettes that have never been developed.
Really? Because
people didn't. As soon as I came up with, here's the song I've done, nobody wanted to listen. So I've experienced that. So we're trying to blow some new life in those and see what happens.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yeah.
Wow! I can't wait to hear that. Oh, I
so
cannot
they're
wait to
actually
listen.
from the 70s and the 80s. Yeah. So we'll see.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
we're working
wow.
on them, so we'll see.
I'm excited now. I am super excited. You should perform sometime here in here around the valley.
Yeah, I probably should. We've talked about it. I have it's an obstacle in my mind, I think, because I feel like they don't know who I am and they don't care. Because at least I know in Sweden that people are remembering me and they know who I am. Here it's like starting from zero. Who is this person? You know what I mean? So I don't know. We've talked about it. Singing here in yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I guess I have an advantage of being known. I mean that's you can't get away from that, But then again, there's a lot of new people in Sweden new generations that don't know me. But there's some your age too that I hear from, and they really like my music. And I think that's very encouraging, people in their 20s. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, hey, if you ever put on a show here in Phoenix, I'll be the first person to buy a ticket.
I'll let you know.
Yes, I will be there, absolutely. Yeah. But Lena, thank you so much for talking.
Sam.
Oh my gosh, such an honor to talk to a legend like yourself.
Oh, thank you. It's encouraging that somebody here knows who I am.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Hey,
I appreciate it.
Hey, well, thank you so much, and thank you for the music.
Oh yeah,
yes.
thank you. Should we sing it? No.